Making headlines this hour. The President ratifies the Prevention of Gang and Other Serious Offences Act, marking a decisive step in the effort to combat gang-related violence. The President blames the lack of political will by successive governments to combat local gangs and gang-related violence. And the President reaffirms his commitment to deepening diplomatic ties between the Maldives and Jordan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Abdullah Ahil. And now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz ratifies the Prevention of Gang and Other Serious Offences Act, marking a decisive step in the nation's effort to combat organized crime and gang-related violence. The law replaces the Gang Violence Act, which government officials deemed insufficient in addressing these threats. The new statute formally defines offenses related to gang activity and organized crime, introducing strict penalties while significantly broadening law enforcement authority. It establishes monitoring mechanisms for high-risk individuals and includes provisions to prevent the recruitment of minors into criminal organizations. Structuring its approach around prevention and enforcement, the law aims to dismantle entrenched networks and disrupt their operations. The bill, presented by the government, was passed in Parliament on the 15th of May during the 32nd sitting of the first session of the current parliamentary term. Under its provisions, law enforcement agencies are tasked with identifying gangs and individuals affiliated with them, a step intended to weaken criminal networks and limit their ability to operate. The legislation also authorizes the seizure of illicit assets linked to organized crime, criminalizing financial support for such groups. Law enforcement agencies have been granted expanded power to conduct controlled deliveries and covert operations aimed at dismantling organized crime syndicates. Penalties for involvement in these groups are severe. Operating or establishing one carries a 25-year prison sentence and fines ranging from $12,973.04 to $0.65 million. Assisting or attempting such crimes incurs an 18-year sentence with fines between $6,486.52 and $0.32 million. The law explicitly criminalizes recruitment into organized crime with stiff penalties for those responsible. Recruiting a minor warrants a 25-year sentence and fines between $12,973.04 and $0.65 million, while recruiting an adult carries a 20-year sentence and fines between $6,486.52 and $0.45 million. Additional penalties target individuals facilitating recruitment, participating in criminal organizations, or using private property for illicit activities. Legal entities involved in organized crime, along with their responsible parties, risk dissolution and fines of up to $6.49 million. The new framework grants extensive authority to enforcement agencies, particularly the Maldives Police Service or MPS. Courts may declare wealth unlawfully acquired if individuals linked to organized crime cannot verify its legitimacy, allowing the state to seize such assets. The law further establishes protective measures for individuals vulnerable to gang environments, including electronic tagging through a Monicon order as part of broader supervision and rehabilitation efforts. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz has blamed the lack of political will by successive governments to combat local gangs and gang-related violence in the country. Speaking after ratifying the Prevention of Gang and Other Serious Offences Act, marking a decisive step in the nation's efforts to combat organized crime and gang-related violence, President blamed the surge in organized crime on the lack of political will by his predecessors. The President warned of serious and decisive action against any government official of his administration if found to have any association or affiliation to local gangs and organized crime. Despite the stringent law, the main objective of the government, according to the President, is rehabilitation and reforming criminals, urging the whole nation to come together to build a crime-free society. The new law defines offenses and penalties related to gang activity and serious organized crimes in the Maldives. It enhances law enforcement powers, introduces measures to protect children from gang involvement, and establishes systems to monitor and manage high-risk individuals. The act also lays out a broader framework for prevention and enforcement measures. While previous legislation targeting gang activity, intimidation, and the possession of dangerous weapons has been in place since 2010, it has not produced effective results. The new law addresses these gaps and provides the stronger response the public has long called for. The government has taken significant steps over the past 18 months to tackle gang-related crime. A dedicated gang crime enforcement unit was established within the Maldives Police Service, or MPS, in July last year. Since then, 31,511 individuals have been questioned in gang hotspots, 180 arrests have been made, and charges filed against 83 suspects. Notably, no lives have been lost to gang violence during this period. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz reaffirms his commitment to deepening diplomatic ties between the Maldives and Jordan, outlining his vision for the bilateral relationship in a social media post marking Jordan's Independence Day. Extending his felicitations, he conveyed warm greetings to King Abdullah II bin Al Hussein and Prime Minister Jafar Hassan, acknowledging the significance of the occasion for the people of Jordan. The president expressed optimism about the future of relations between the Maldives and Jordan, highlighting his hope that the partnership would continue to strengthen, fostering deeper collaboration and mutual benefits. Jordan's Independence Day, observed annually on the 25th of May, marks a pivotal moment in the nation's history. The occasion commemorates Jordan's formal recognition as an independent sovereign state under the Treaty of London in 1946, ending its period under British protection following the Second World War. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz reaffirms his administration's commitment to restoring Maldives football to its former glory. In a post on his social media platforms to mark World Football Day, celebrated on the 25th of May, President Dr. Muiz hailed the role football has played in unifying the Maldives, while also producing talented footballers that the country can be proud of. He said football has also revived the social spirit in all islands among all ages across the country. The incumbent administration, since taking office in November 2023, has continued to put in a lot of effort to get Maldives football back on track. The government has been providing financial and other assistance to local football to revive the sport in the Maldives and boost its participation in international tournaments. Earlier this year, the government extended $64,850 to local clubs to help them overcome the financial losses caused by the delayed start to the local football season. The government, meanwhile, recently pushed through a legislative amendment to the Maldives Sports Act, which will see the establishment of the National Sports Fund to allow for sustained and increased investment in the development of the sports sector. Homeland Security and Technology Minister Ali Ihsan warns that gangs will no longer be able to operate outside the jurisdiction of the law following the ratification of the new landmark law to combat organized crime and gang-related violence. Speaking to reporters after President Dr. Mohamed Muiz ratified the Prevention of Gang and Other Serious Offences Act, Minister Ihsan pointed out that a law was passed in 2010 to curb rising gang violence and organized crime in the country. However, the biggest challenge to enforcement agencies was the lack of judicial identification of gangs and affiliated individuals. He said the new law will, however, remove hurdles to the prosecution and sentencing of offenders. The new law defines offenses and penalties related to gang activity and serious organized crimes in the Maldives. It enhances law enforcement powers, introduces measures to protect children from gang involvement, and establishes systems to monitor and manage high-risk individuals. The act also lays out a broader framework for prevention and enforcement measures. While previous legislation targeting gang activity, intimidation, and the possession of dangerous weapons has been in place since 2010, it has not produced effective results. The new law addresses these gaps and provides the stronger response the public has long called for. The minister assured that enforcement agencies will ensure that offenders cannot operate beyond the reach of the new law. The minister also expressed confidence that the new law would revolutionize efforts to prevent gang-related crimes, adding that the public should expect to see positive changes when it comes into force. The government has taken significant steps over the past 18 months to tackle gang-related crime. A dedicated gang crime enforcement unit was established within the Maldives Police Service on the 1st of July 2024. Since then, 31,511 individuals have been questioned in gang hotspots, 180 arrests have been made, and charges filed against 83 suspects. Notably, no lives have been lost to gang violence during this period. The new law will fully come into effect in 3 months. The Prosecutor General or PG Abbas Sharif says his office has already initiated efforts to draft the required regulations to complement the prevention of gang and other serious offenses. Speaking to reporters after President Dr. Mohamed Muiz ratified the Prevention of Gang and Other Serious Offenses Act, Abbas said his office was already drafting the required regulations mandated under the new law, which he said will be followed by relevant training. The chief prosecutor said his office is also organizing forums to provide information and raise public awareness about the new law. The new law statute formally defines offenses related to gang activity and organized crime, introducing strict penalties while significantly broadening law enforcement authority. It establishes monitoring mechanisms for high-risk individuals and includes provisions to prevent the recruitment of minors into criminal organizations. Structuring its approach around prevention and enforcement, the law aims to dismantle entrenched networks and disrupt their operations. Under its provisions, law enforcement agencies are tasked with identifying gangs and individuals affiliated with them, a step intended to weaken criminal networks and limit their ability to operate. The legislation also authorizes the seizure of illicit assets linked to organized crime, criminalizing financial support for such groups. Law enforcement agencies have been granted expanded powers to conduct controlled deliveries and covert operations aimed at dismantling organized crime syndicates. The law explicitly criminalizes recruitment into organized crime with stiff penalties for those responsible. The new framework grants extensive authority to enforcement agencies, particularly the Maldives Police Service, or MPS. Courts may declare wealth unlawfully acquired if individuals linked to organized crime cannot verify its legitimacy, allowing the state to seize such assets. Police will also have the power to stop, search, and arrest individuals suspected of organized criminal activity, weapons manufacturing, or illegal imports without requiring prior judicial authorization. The law further establishes protective measures for individuals vulnerable to gang environments, including electronic tagging through a Monacon order as part of broader supervision and rehabilitation efforts. Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdullah Khalil arrives in neighboring India on an official visit to attend the high-level group meeting. During the 2-day official visit, Minister Dr. Khalil will lead the second meeting of the High-Level Core Group, or HLCG, between the Maldives and India, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said. Minister Dr. Khalil will also hold bilateral discussions with Dr. S. Jaishankar, Minister of External Affairs of India, to review the overall progress of Maldives-India relations and exchange views on regional and international issues of mutual interest. The high-level core group was established to implement the Maldives and India Vision for Comprehensive Economic and Maritime Security Partnership, a framework agreed upon by President Dr. Mohamed Muiz and Prime Minister Narendra Modi following their meeting in October last year. The document outlines the strategic roadmap for bilateral cooperation, and the meeting will cover a broad range of key sectors, including transport and connectivity, agriculture, fisheries, trade, economic health, people-to-people linkages, capacity building and training, as well as defense and security cooperation. The first high-level core group meeting was held in Male on the 29th of January 2025. Minister Dr. Khalil is accompanied by a high-level delegation comprising senior officials from the President's Office, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Construction, Housing and Infrastructure, Ministry of Finance and Planning, Ministry of Economic Development and Trade, and the Ministry of Homeland Security and Technology. Maldives Monetary Authority, or MMA, figures shows that the Maldives has recorded an increase in tourist occupancy rates during the first quarter of the year, Central Bank. MMA's quarterly business survey, or QBS, for the first quarter of 2025 said activity in the tourism sector continued to expand, albeit at a slower pace, according to the tourism businesses responding to the survey. The survey shows that the occupancy rate of the tourism industry increased by 8% in the first quarter of this year compared to the last quarter of 2024. Labor market indicators for the tourism sector also continued to expand in terms of employment in the first quarter of 2025, with an 8% increase, while wages and other labor costs per employee index climbed by 4% during the review quarter. The QBS report shows that the financial position of the tourism industry also improved in the first quarter. The company's financial position increased by 3% in the first quarter of this year compared to the same quarter last year. Overall, the tourism industry has performed remarkably well so far this year, coinciding with the sustained increase in the number of tourist arrivals to the Maldives. As of the 20th of May, a total of 923,390 tourists had holidayed in the Maldives as opposed to the 854,928 tourists during the same period last year, marking an 8% increase. American oil company Chevron has everything to continue investing in Venezuela, and its exit is a shot in the foot for the United States, says the congressman and son of President Nicolas Maduro, days before the license granted by Washington to the oil company to liquidate operations expires. The U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, recently stated on X that the license will expire on May 27th as planned. Most of the partners of the Venezuelan state oil company, PDVSA, have requested extensions. The licenses granted to Chevron and other foreign companies in Venezuela have allowed a slight recovery in oil production and exports since 2023. Maduro and his government have always rejected the sanctions from the United States and other countries, arguing that they are illegitimate measures equivalent to an economic war designed to paralyze Venezuela. ASEAN foreign ministers pledged continued support to Myanmar and urged commitment to regional solidarity as the bloc faces ongoing humanitarian and political challenges at the ASEAN foreign ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur. Malaysian Foreign Minister Muhammad Hassan said ASEAN's swift action towards the recent Myanmar earthquake reflected its founding values of compassion, solidarity, and humanity.
ASEAN took swift and immediate action following the tragic earthquake that struck parts of Myanmar and Thailand. Our quick response is a reflection of a spirit of compassion, solidarity, and humanity that inspired the founding of ASEAN. It is also a testament to the unwavering commitment of ASEAN family to support Myanmar in this time of adversity.
He also called on Myanmar stakeholders to extend and expand the current ceasefire, urging all sides to ease the suffering of the people of Myanmar and work towards long-term peace.
We call on the stakeholders in Myanmar to cease hostilities and to extend and expand the ceasefire to facilitate the long and difficult path towards recovery and ease the suffering of the people of Myanmar.
Malaysia currently serves as the rotating chair of the 10-member Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Xabi Alonso has been appointed Real Madrid manager, the La Liga club says, as the Spaniard returns to the Santiago Bernabeu, where he spent 6 seasons as a player and won several trophies. Alonso has signed a 3-year contract until June 2028, and the 43-year-old replaces Carlo Ancelotti, who took charge of his last game on May 24th. Alonso had been in charge of Bayer Leverkusen and confirmed he would be leaving the German club this month. The Spaniard took charge of Leverkusen in October 2022 and guided them to the double last season as they lifted their first Bundesliga title without losing a game. He had a contract at Leverkusen until 2026, but the club said they had granted his wish to terminate his deal at the end of the season. Alonso will be present as Real coach on Monday and will take charge of Real ahead of the Club World Cup, which starts in the United States next month. Kenya Wildlife Service began relocating 21 critically endangered black rhinos to a new sanctuary, Segera Conservancy in Laikipia County, in a bid to support the species' long-term survival. Olivia Zolino reports.
This is the moment a black rhino took off for its new home. Kenya Wildlife Service started the process of relocating 21 critically endangered animals to a new sanctuary on Saturday. The move is meant to help support the species' long-term survival, says Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and Wildlife, Rebecca Miano.
By moving rhinos from Olpejeta, Lewa, and Nakuru, all sanctuaries currently operating at over 100% of their carrying capacity, we are reducing deadly territorial fights that account for over 30% of rhino mortalities.
The newly prepared Segera Conservancy is Kenya's 18th black rhino sanctuary. The area was assessed to ensure sufficient water, forage, and security for the animals. As part of the process, rangers and veterinarians sedated each rhino for safe transport and monitored vital signs during the procedure. Kenya is home to just over 1,000 black rhinos, up from 350 in 1989. According to the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, the relocation is part of Kenya's plan to grow the black rhino population to 2,000 by 2037.
And that's all the news we have for today. We'll be back with any further updates. Until then, I'm Abdullah Ahil from PSM News.